Welcome everyone. So glad that you're here to join us on the live stream. So glad that you've survived the first week. As I said in our welcome video this week, week 2 is all about unlearning the learning. What better way to do that than with a hackathon? And what better way to do that than to partner with Postillion Hotels in the Postillion Hotels DBE Hackathon. We have 4 amazing guests for you today. And I'd like to go ahead and take the opportunity to welcome our very first guest, the Managing Director of Postillion Hotels, Erik-Jan Ginjaar.
Good morning to you all. And let me begin by saying that as from today, your new life is beginning. Because as from today, and as from the start on the Hotel Management School, you are part of the world of hotellos. And hotellos, being an hotello means something. Being an hotello will stay with you the rest of your life. I'm a proud hotello, and I had the chance to be a year at Standen, and I finished off at Hotel School Maastricht. Today we are here with somebody of Standen and somebody of The Hague. So I think we show the world today that it doesn't matter from which hotel management school you're a proud member of the hotello family. Okay, my name is Eric, and I'm proud Managing Director of Postillion Hotels. I started there in 2012, and before that time I worked for Amrad. Today I'm going to take you on in the world of design-based education, and I don't know, something doesn't go on the screen. It is fixed. Great. And what is it? What is the world of design-based education? Or actually, what's the world of a design sprint? To tell you that, I have to take you to January 2018. Because it all started with a glass of beer. In January 2018, a Wednesday, I had the worst day in my career. The figures of 2017 came along that morning, and I can tell you they didn't look good. Actually, they were crap. So the CFO of our company called me already early in the morning, and he was shouting in the phone. He was telling me that I had to do a cost reduction. He was yelling at me that I had to come up with a plan to make our company sound again. To make our company future-proof again. A little bit later that day, I had a few clients on the phone who were shouting that the reservation process took too long, we made too many mistakes. So my day actually didn't get any better. So I was in Rotterdam, and we had our own show, our own fair there, but I couldn't get myself into talking with clients. So I took a stand on the bar, and I drank. And I drank a beer and another beer. And by 9:30, Maarten Rijersberger came along, and you will meet him later on today. A very big guy, beard, all kinds of tattoos. A little bit frightened. And he asked me, Eric, what's wrong with you? And that was enough to start actually spilling out everything that was bothering me. And by the end of that 20 seconds, 30 seconds, he said to me, Eric, what you need to do is to bring all your critical processes into a computer. You need to innovate. And I said, innovate? We're talking about hospitality, man. We're talking about a way where we need to look each other in the eye. We are talking about the world of giving hands, shaking hands, about making a day even more beautiful than it already was. That's not possible via a computer. How dare you? And then he said, you need to do a design sprint. I said, I need to do what? He said, you need to do a design sprint. And as from there, I met Jeroen Kraak. He will be here later on today too. And before I prepared for the meeting with Jeroen Kraak, I realized that innovation was already in the DNA of Postillion Hotels. Therefore, I have to go a little bit back in history. I have to order a sunny side up egg with a little bit of extra bacon, please. Because back in the days, convenience cooking didn't exist. It was invented by the head chef of Postillion. And they innovated so much of the kitchen, they actually innovated everything away, that they prepared everything that was on the menu in a main kitchen. So there was no actual, there were no actual ingredients anymore. So if you would order a sunny side up, the servant would say to you, well, that's not possible. We only have got omelets. But hey, an omelet and a sunny side up, they're both made from eggs. But the omelet was already prepared and laying in the fridge, awaiting to be regenerated. So, if you are talking about innovation, always keep in mind that what you're making, what you're thinking of, what you're trying to create, needs to solve a real problem and not become a problem. The world of a design sprint is actually a very strange world. It's a world where you need to stay focused on the process. And you need to be convinced that the process and the steps you are taking will guide you through the way. What you're doing now is in 3 days what we've done in 5. And those 5 days I want to talk you quickly through it. On Monday, the first day, that's the best day of the week, I can tell you. Because then, as Hotello, you can explain to technicians how your world is going, what's happening in your company. And all those technicians are only asking questions and make you greater and make you even more convinced that what you're doing is fantastic and it's the only real job in the world. The next day, that's a terrible day. Then those technicians have prepared all kinds of questions for you where your self-confidence is going down, because then they're asking, can't you do it like this? Isn't it better to do it like that? Why didn't you think of, and so on, the whole day. So at Tuesday, I drove back with little tears in my eyes. And then Wednesday, that's the most exhausting day, because then you're going to combine your company, whatever you can do better, to think of solutions. And then you need to choose the solution you're gonna go for. The solution you're gonna prepare a business case on. On Thursday, the technicians are going to do their magic. They're gonna prepare, and now I'm forgetting the prototype. The word was not coming into my mind. They're going to prepare a prototype. They're gonna make a real solution. And then the most nervous day actually is Friday. Because then you're going to try a prototype on real clients. Not clients you thought of, no, real clients. And they're going to give you feedback. And maybe they're going to say that the solution or the prototype you've built is absolute shit. And I think most of the times clients will do so. Because innovation is not something that comes along every day or every week. To create a real solution for a problem in your company, that only works when everything comes together. And for you guys, I think it's very important to believe in the process. Don't forget any step. Take every step. Make sure your timetable is very, very tight and focused on. Because I know now, after 5 days, that if we would have forgot one of the steps in the process, although I thought a step wasn't so important, if we would have forgot a step, we wouldn't have innovated or created the artificial intelligence employee we have created with that design sprint. Then, don't forget that if you're looking at innovation, you're working in a Scrum environment. And Scrum is something, for me as a Hotello, I still can't get my head around it. But it works. So have a little bit of faith. What's Scrum? Scrum, for me as a Hotello, by the way, it is like if I ask somebody to do something for me, I'm trying to get a budget straight. I want to have the timetable straight. So you have to deliver within 2 weeks for this amount of money. And you need to create that product. in the Scrum world, it doesn't work like that. In a Scrum world, they will say to you, maybe it is finished, and maybe it will cost this, or maybe a little bit more. And then as a hoteler, you have to try and figure your way into this Scrum world. But remember, those guys only work Scrum and they deliver in the end, of course. So that's important. So in the world of design thinking and the design-based education you guys will see this week, you also learn the world of Scrum methodology. And I think that's the hardest part for a hoteler. To finish off this introduction, don't forget that every innovation doesn't replace the value of human capital. Because guys, we make the hospitality. We are hospitality. We are the human capital of the future companies. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you very much, Eric Jan, for taking us through your first taste of design thinking and working with design sprints. As you guys might know, the design challenge that Postillion Hotels has for you is all about a digital influencer. And who better to come and to talk to you about digital influencers than Martin Rijersberg from Raw CC. He is the digital big man.
Good morning to you all. I'm Martin. I'm the only non-hotello in the room today. So therefore, it might be a good idea to show you a bit on what my company is about. I'm the founder of RACC. We stand for Creative Agency for Sustainable Content. And I'm here to tell you a bit about generations. Because in this design thinking process, you work with personas. And if you want to create a persona, or keep a persona in mind, it might be a good idea to dive deep into what kind of generations you have with personas. And first of all, I'd like to tell you a bit about the most neglected persona or the most neglected generation till now. Because everybody, all corporates are talking about millennials. And millennials are the new generations. And as you, I assume you're all Generation Z. Millennials are quite old. I have no idea what age is behind the screen, but millennials, they range from 23 till 38 years old. So millennials already bought a house, maybe have kids, maybe two, and Generation Z is actually the next generation. I'm assuming that you behind the screen are all Generation Z, except for your tutors. So what is the difference between Generation Z and millennials? There's one sound that distinguished the difference between millennials and Generation Z. And I bet none of you recognize this sound. Maybe up the sound a bit. It's a horrible sound, especially at 9:15 in the morning. But this is the sound. I'm Generation X. This is the sound I heard whenever I wanted to come online. And I just switched back because the sound was too horrible for my terrible hangover spending the night with hotelos. Generation Z are the true digital natives. They take internet or Wi-Fi for granted. I had a hard time explaining to my daughter of 11 years old that having Wi-Fi isn't the same as having internet. Those are two different things. She doesn't understand that. There's internet all around us. A bit more worrying is that Generation Z, the world they live in has never felt safe because they're all born after 9/11, or their conscious is after 9/11. And since 9/11, in every big town in the world, you see these big concrete blocks on the street. That wasn't, well, it looks like if you like skateboarding, it's a good thing, but if you're not, it's an obstacle. These kids, or you out there behind the screen, ever since you're conscious, we live in a world which is code orange. And therefore, I don't mean code orange with COVID. I mean code orange with terrorism threat. The good thing about Generation Z is they're accepting. They don't care if you're homosexual, bisexual, transgender, or whatever, as long as it makes you happy. And that's the thing that I think that generations like the baby boomers, millennials, and Generation X can learn a lot from. This is the most positive aspect of being Gen Z. They're health conscious. This is, I'm Generation X. I'm 44 years old. I know it doesn't show, but I was brought up with all these television commercials by the government that we should eat healthy, and we should check packaging for fat and sugars. And, well, obviously that didn't work out. But Instagram got done what all these government commercials couldn't get done, and that's that they took care of people eating healthy again, because healthy food is beautiful food. And so this Generation Z, the Instagram generation, they love to eat healthy because, well, healthy food is beautiful food. They value their privacy, and I'm really I really hope you recognize something in this presentations from yourselves. But of course it's, hoe zeg je dat in het Engels? Alles over één kam scheren. Yeah, we shave it all over one comb, right? Anyway, they value their privacy, but there's something odd about that, because they avoid brands who don't offer them a personalized experience. And then they're entrepreneurial, and this is something which comes around very often in my company whenever we got interns. They come as an intern at my company, but then they also have their own company, and maybe they have two companies. They run a little website agency, and then they sell jewelry online, and then they do their internship at ROCC. So this Gen Z is really brought up with this entrepreneurial spirit, which you definitely need whenever you go into the hospitality business. And this one might be a bit odd, but they're changing the distinction between childhood and adulthood. I have no idea. First of all, it's very impolite to ask a girl for her age, but I have no idea how old this girl is. Because we live in a world where lip fillers, well, fake boobs, whatever, is more normal than ever. There are women who get new tits for their 18th birthday, and that's not uncommon. So the whole distinction between childhood and adulthood, it's fading away. So to sum up the difference between millennials and Generation Z, well, of course, the year they were born in. Most millennials are raised by baby boomers, the generation where Gen Z has the most problem with. And most Gen Z are raised by Gen Xers. The biggest difference is that millennials grew up during an economic boom, and Gen Z grew up during a recession, which really makes your world a different place. Millennials tend to be idealistic, Gen Z tend to be pragmatic. And their first are mobile pioneers, the others are mobile natives. I will share this presentation so you don't have to learn it by head. So if we have this difference between millennials and Gen Z in a world where all the corporates shove them all on one pile, how about generation AI? Because that's a whole new generation. It's not a human generation, it's a technical generation. I don't know if you recognize this video still. This is the part where I ask the audience questions and I get answers back. So I have to, moet een beetje, hoe noem je dat? Ja, ja, van die dingen. This is a movie still from the movie Her, where this guy with a beautiful mustache falls in love with the operating system of his telephone. That's kind of weird. She talks to him, she has a beautiful voice, but she doesn't exist. She is all bits and bytes. This is a movie still from the movie Ex Machina. It's all about the Turing test, where this guy has to figure out if she is real or not. It's interesting because it takes him quite a while before he understands that the woman he falls in love with isn't real. And then there's Westworld. No idea whom of you has HBO, but Westworld is all about this Western world filled with robots. And there's no way to know if somebody is real or if he or she is a robot. And this sounds very Black Mirror-ish, but the trends I'm going to show you today will show that it's actually not so far-fetched as it might look. Before COVID, I was able to travel to New York each year. And each year I went to Social Media Week in New York, and that's where I get my inspiration. I love to go abroad. Unfortunately, due to COVID, that's not possible anymore. And this is the tweet I sent the last time I was in New York during Social Media Week. And I wrote, my advice after attending Social Media Week New York City: premium content is king, so dive deep into CGI, XR, voice, AI, and bots. And that's a lot of afkortingen. So let me take you through these. What's afkortingen in it? Abbreviations. Yes, thank you, Jamie. I don't know if you know this girl. Beautiful black girl, but she's not real. She's the first artificial supermodel. She's created by a guy from England, southern part of England, and he created a whole cast of artificial supermodels. He runs an artificial supermodel agency. That wasn't possible 10 years ago. You couldn't figure a way to get something created like this with a home computer. Now it is possible. Our home computers are so much more powerful than they were 10 years ago. 10 years ago, computers were as fast as my mobile phone is now. So what you'll see is that because this hardware is getting cheaper and the software is getting easier to use, you see way more CGI in as well the advertising landscape as well as at our daily lives. There's also a dark side behind that. That's the deep fake propaganda is on the rise. You've all seen these fake videos of Obama, which tells you a story which is never told for real. Then dive deep into XR. XR is actually the combination of VR and AR. And I'm not sure if you know the difference between VR or AR. VR is virtual reality, is where you have to wear a stupid headset like that. It always reminds me of the first phone of my dad, which was actually such a big AQ package with, well, very big. And AR, augmented reality, which are big supermarket, Albert Heijn, brought to the kitchen table by presenting these dino cards, where if you scan them with your phone, actually a dino appeared on your kitchen table. It was quite awesome. Technology like this will impact how we community, play games, watch films, and of course, watch porn, because every big tech innovation, porn was the front runner of. That's why we don't have Betamax anymore, and we had a very long range of VHS movies. Dive deep into voice. It's kind of hard to present without an audience, but blackout. Amazon's Alexa found its way to all the kitchens in the US, all the middle-class kitchens in the US. And what Amazon did there is very smart. They cut out the middleman. They made sure that every kitchen had an Amazon Alexa like this, and you can order your groceries just by calling out, "Hey Alexa, can you order me some batteries?" And then Alexa won't send you, or Amazon won't send you Philips batteries. Nay, they will send you Amazon Prime batteries, because you didn't specify what kind of batteries you'd like. We see more and more people using voice messaging instead of texting. I don't know if you noticed, but I see a lot of people walking on the street like this, talking into their phones. That's completely different than 5 years ago, where we all walked around like this. And then dive deep into AI and bots. Postillion Hotels is dove very deep into the AI industry with their artificial reservation employee called Michiel. But bots like this you see more and more often, and they get more personal. This is a screenshot of me having a conversation with my Replica. Replica is an app which you can download, which has an AI learning curve, and the more you put into it, the more it knows, and the more it gets to know you, and it actually has the goal of becoming a copy of your own, a replica of your own. And people get attached to the bots they interactive with every day. It's just like a man giving his car a name, but then a bit different. I want to show you a video about two guys who go on the street in LA talking about Lil Miquela. I'm not sure if you heard about Lil Miquela, but Lil Miquela is the most famous virtual influencer. And, well, they go on the street.
Have you ever scrolled
and ask
Instagram and thought, wait, is this person actually a robot? Probably not. We assume that the people we follow are actually real, but what if they weren't?
Which one of these people is real?
I mean, they all look like real people.
This girl right here, she's not real.
What?
Yeah. This is Lil Miquela. She's a 19-year-old Brazilian-American model and singer from Los Angeles. But she's not real.
She's real to me. What? Yeah.
She's computer generated and created by a mysterious LA-based startup called Brud. Their team of writers and storytellers dictate her every move. She has 1.2 million followers, and she collaborates with major artists, brands, and is showing up everywhere.
I mean, you can tell, like, if you
zoom in, you
yeah,
can tell, but the thing is,
should know.
people, even if they know, they don't care.
Right.
Okay, here's her story. She's a girl who just found out that she's a robot, and she's coming to terms with being lied to by her creators. It's a fun story to follow, and people seem to be really empathizing with it. Like, lots of people. Today, Lil Miquela was announced to be on Time Magazine's list of the top 25 most influential people on the internet. She actually posted on Instagram about it, and here's what she said. Today was the biggest day of my career. I can't believe I was named on the same list as my personal heroes like Rihanna. Rihanna's on this list.
Yeah.
Okay, wait, here's the thing. I happened to get the text telling me I'm on the list, and I damn near lost my mind in the street. What?
So it feels realistic. It's like something a real person would say. They got a text. She didn't get a text. She doesn't have a phone.
Brand
They
deals.
write her dialogue.
They write her dialogue, yeah.
Got it.
And she
So she
responds
does
to
brand
people.
deals?
She did a brand deal with Prada. Did a product line with them.
Prada?
And
she was on a billboard.
we just came
over
here
there.
because this entire wall was taken up by her right there.
That must have been incredible.
Which is just crazy to think about, right? Like this is like our influencer's gonna get replaced. Here's the thing. Lil Miquela making the top 25 most influential people on the internet, she took someone's spot. On that list, that could have been another person and would have changed their entire career. It's already happening. She replaced someone. So
They've made three
they made
robots.
three
Yeah.
robot influencers.
Straight nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Brud is creating an entire cast of characters that you can follow. They all have different storylines.
Slacco is her brother. Bermuda is her arch rival, who now she's okay with. Basically just a hit drama TV show taking place on Instagram on a bunch of different accounts that are all interacting with each other. And it could last forever.
I think this is no different than an animated character.
Like, you're right.
I don't think it's that different from a Disney character that you follow and that you love. You just like the story and what this person stands for. I think the reality is storytelling always wins. If you have a good story, it's gonna connect with people.
So I think that is exactly why people feel really connected to her, because it's written as if she were a real person.
At the end of the day, Lil Miquela is not a robot. She's just a good story written by a team of talented writers and graphic artists. But it begs the question, how far are we from a robot writing its own story, generating its own images, and truly growing a fan base and an audience without the help of humans?
So, inspired by Lil Miquela, as a company, we dove deep in these virtual influencers. There aren't that much of them yet. If you go to the website virtualhumans.org, you see an oversight of about all the virtual humans there are on this planet. And Mark Struik from Postillion approached me and said, we're going to open up a hotel somewhere in 220, 221. And he asked me, can you think of a way to promote this hotel? Because, well, it's going to be an awesome hotel, but it really needs to connect with the city. So we took our chance and we presented them a virtual influencer. Actually, the first virtual influencer in the Netherlands, called Esther Olafsson. And just like you do with working out personas, we also worked out the persona of Esther Olafsson. We actually dove so deep into her story because it had to feel real. Not so real that people wouldn't see that she actually isn't real, but just real enough to make people wonder. And we created Esther Olafsson. She's the daughter of a Swedish guy and an Israeli woman. Her dad left her and her mom when she was very young, so she has a bit of a difficult relationship with men. Her mom has an architecture agency in Malmö, Sweden, and it's called MOR, which also means mother, but actually stands for Malmö Office for Redesign. And at this architecture agency, she worked as a PR agent, and she helped her mom out with social media. She's 29 years old, so she's actually a millennial, not Generation Z like Lil Miquela is. And at this architecture agency, she met Tom. And Tom is a young architect from the city of Rotterdam, and they fell deeply in love. She moved with Tom to Rotterdam in the Netherlands, and they lived together for a while, but then, like all architects do, all architects are assholes, Tom left Esther for his ex-girlfriend Maud, and that left Esther Olason all alone in the big city of Rotterdam. But she's also kind of attracted by this city because she loves good hangout, she loves architecture, she loves design, and this is actually where her story starts. And if you follow her story on Instagram and you scroll back, you see her first steps into this city. Actually, the first post she did in Rotterdam, she detached the lock, the love lock she put on the, in Rotterdam we call the Hoerenloper, yeah, or it's actually a bridge in Rotterdam, and throws it in the water. That's the first of her post in Rotterdam. And after that, she starts exploring the city by an Uber bike, Uber jump bike. She makes pictures of all the architecture. She goes into the nice coffee shops. Here she has a beautiful dish of sushi, just like any other 29-year-old girl. She works from home due to COVID. So she really experiences the city like a guest of Postillion hotels would do. And she's actually going to be the most trusted city guide for Rotterdam for Postillion hotels. It's your challenge to think of how a virtual influencer like Esther Olason can attract high talent towards a company like Postillion Hotel. So I'm really looking forward to your ideas and what you're going to do the next 3 days and to figure out this challenge. So thank you for your focus, and I wish you all the luck you'll probably need to get this challenge done. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you very much, Martin. Just a real quick intermezzo before we continue with our next guest speaker. We do have a chat now function, so if you do have questions that you'd like to ask our guest speakers so far, please feel free to use it. And for those of you that haven't checked out the design challenge and exactly what you're expected to do, please go ahead and take a minute to check on the meet.stenonhms.online website under the Postillion menu. I'd like to introduce our next speaker. He is the founder of the Next Lab, Jeroen Kraak.
Thank you. Everybody still with us? Good morning. My name is Jeroen Kraak. And for me, this is coming full circle. I am the hotello from The Hague, the hotel management school in The Hague. So I did that, and then my career sort of swooped me into innovations and coming to terms with what we now call design thinking. And now I'm here talking to hotellos in Leeuwarden about design thinking. So this is full circle for me. Very honored to be here. Thank you for having me. You've just listened to Erik Jan talking about design sprinting. You've listened to Martin talking about virtual influencers. I'm going to sort of warp speed you through design sprinting, design thinking. This will take me about 15 to 20 minutes tops. And you then need to be able to understand how design thinking works. But don't worry, you've got 4 years to nail this, okay? So bear with me. I'm going to click on here, this one here. Okay, I'm going to talk to you about design thinking in short. First thing, whatever you must do today, do it with the confidence of a 4-year-old in a Batman cape, right? Be confident that you will be able to nail the challenge that lies ahead of you. You've got 3 days to work on a challenge. Now, before I continue, you are watching, I think, via Teams. There's a chat functionality in there. We're going to do open Q&A. So whenever you feel like asking me a question about how to master part of your design challenge, just chat it and I will answer and then continue with my presentation, right? Okay, so let me walk you, design thinking. Design thinking is a user-centered method to solve complex problems, right? And we take you through 5 phases. It is empathy, it is define, it is ideate, it is prototype, and then it's testing. Now this typically takes you about weeks or months, and then you iterate and come up with the perfect solution for your guests or customers, right? You've got 3 days. Now I'm in the business of design sprinting, so we take 5 days to complete these challenges. And this is really fast forwarding innovation at warp speed. So let me just simplify it for you a bit. This is the challenge that you're going to be facing, right? How can a virtual influencer help the Postillion brand to promote itself amongst hotel school students? You've got 3 days, so let's speed things up. Design sprints, or hackathons, if you may, are a framework for quickly moving from abstract problems to testable solutions, to tangible solutions, right? And they empathize speed over perfection and aim for collaboration without the groupthink. Now this is a very important thing about design sprinting, right? So you're in a group, 5 to 6 people in your case, and then the trick is to come up with a solution. So you cannot go into the nitty-gritty detail of coming up with problems, understanding, solving these problems, etc. You need to keep on going through this process. So let me talk about my first design sprint. This is 2016. I was then a participant in a design sprint. So I sat at the table, like Erik Jan sat at my table 2 years ago, and we ran our first design sprint, right? Because I had this major problem. I had to come up with a digital platform for people suffering from depressions, and I only had 3 months to actually build this digital platform. So I contacted a company called Connect Holland, and they said, okay, stop thinking, we're going to run a design sprint with you. I was then in the innovation business for I think about 10 or 15 years, so I said, what's that again? A design sprint? And they told me, yes, well, what we do is we take this process. It was invented by Google, and they have to come up and solve like innovative problems 1,200 times a year, so they had to sort of speed up this process. And what you do is you go through your first day understanding the problem, and then by the second day you're going to come up with possible solutions. On day number 3 you're going to decide what the best solution is. By day 4 we make a prototype of this, and by day 5 we're going to test it, and then you know everything you need to know, and then we'll just use Scrum methodology, like Erik Jan just earlier told you, to start building your digital platform. And they sounded so confident. They sounded like this 4-year-old kid with a Batman cape on, right? So I just dove into this process, trusting that they knew everything they needed to know. And they didn't, right? Everything went wrong. It actually looked like this. It was a mess. There's some strict rules about design sprinting. It's the number of people. No less than 4, no more than 7. We were with 23. Another rule, 1 conversation at a time. I think we had those little one-on-one conversations, or the bilas, with all these people in the room all the time, right? And then it's about focus. We didn't focus. We had our phones ringing. We had our laptops open, we had iPads everywhere. And still, on day 4, we had a prototype. On day 5, we tested it with real users. Now, these are people who suffered or were suffering from depressions, right? So this is a very fragile target audience. We interviewed 5 of them. Remember this number. And 3 of them were actually crying. Please tell me that this is the truth. And I was just awestruck. I was like, wow, it only took us 5 days to come up with this solution. We validated it, tested it with our real users, and now we've got the, let's say, our North Star, right? We know what to do. 3 months later, we were live, problem solved, digital platform live. And for me, this was sort of the homecoming event. 3 months later, I was asked to facilitate my very first design sprint myself, like your hosts are going to be facilitating you. They're like their moderator. They're going to sort of take you by the hand and guide you through this process. Now we are talking 2020. We run our own company. It's called The Next Lab. We have run over 100 design sprints. We are proud innovation partners of the Postillion Hotel. And the design sprint that you are now facing, obviously sponsored by Postillion Hotels, is what you're going to solve today. Okay, remember this? Empathize, define, ideate, prototype, and then test. This is all fine if you've got weeks or even months to go through this process, but you don't. I thought there were 5 days. It turns out to be 3 days. It's a hackathon. And this is going to be great fun, right? But I'm going to make it a little easier for you. So forget about empathize and define, etc. Go to understand, sketch, decide, prototype, and test. Let me quickly run you through these 5 phases. Today is about understanding, or the empathize phase, right? So you need to understand what Postillion Hotels is all about. Mark Struik, Commercial Director of Postillion, will shortly tell you more about Postillion Hotels. You need to understand the personas, your target audience. Well, guess what? You are the personas, right? Martin was talking about they. It is actually you, right? So understand the personas, then understand the customer journey, then understand the problem of that persona, right? And then today you have to come up with those 3 deliverables. So sketch out a persona, understand the problem of that persona, understand your own problem being a hotel school student, and come up with the user journey. If you nail this today as a deliverable, you're on the right path. It's all about understanding, right? No solutions yet. Understand, understand, understand. This might be the most important phase of design sprinting. Understand, always empathize with your user, understand their problem, and then think of the solution, possible solutions. Next slide. This is tomorrow. Your deliverable there is to come up with a prototype and then test, validate that prototype, right? A better word for prototype in this phase is actually a predotype. So an E instead of an O. We use a predotype or a prototype to answer the question, should we build this? Okay? So rewind 2 years when Erik-Jan Ginjaar approached us with the challenge, how can we become the first hotel in the world without a back office? So we can take the people who are working in the back office, put them front of house to welcome our guests, right? We then came up in day 4 with a prototype of a mail bot. So it's a robot. He is now called Michiel. It's an actual virtual employee of the Postillion Hotels. And he then answers the emails. Now, would this work? So you test it with 5 real Postillion guests, right? The bookers of meetings and events, this is. So this prototype then answers the question, should we build this? Fortunately, the answer was yes, and we could proceed in that process. It might very well be that your answer is no. Don't worry, this is okay. Because in design sprinting, where you only take 5 days to come up with a challenge, a prototype, and then test it, and you get your answers after 5 days, and the answer is no, we call it positive failure. I'll get into that a bit later on. Day 3 from now, by the end of the day you have to deliver a video, right? Because this is a COVID world, so we cannot make actual tangible prototypes and then present it in an auditorium with 500 of you in that same auditorium. It's a brand new world. So what you need to do is come up with a video and then send that video to us, and we'll be sort of the judges of who did this the best. And it's not about who made the best video, it's about who really understands this problem and nailed the design-based education part 1. Over there. It's going to be challenging because you're all sitting in your own dorms or in your own kitchens at your own kitchen table. So make sure that it's going to be fun, right? Please let me stress, do not sit close to each other at the same kitchen table, guys. That's COVID out there. But make it fun, right? It is okay to be in the same room, keep your distance, but preferably sit behind your own screen and work together there. This is challenging, we know, but you can actually make this work for you. 4 reasons why it's challenging. It's going to be an energy drain. Right? You've been listening to us now for nearly 2 hours, I think. Where's your energy now, right? So make sure you've got plenty of breaks, energize yourself, and keep focus. Because the second challenge is that you lose your focus, right? So keep your cams on and your mics on, and don't be staring at your phones like this if the rest of the team is working there, right? Keep your focus. Tech tooling makes you go nuts, right? You are now on Teams or you are on Zoom or whatever. Fortunately, you are Gen Z. So as I understood from Martin, you are the real digital natives. So it shouldn't worry you. But the teachers guiding you there, they might have a bit of a challenge. So bear with them, okay? Lack of structure, that is number 4, right? Erik Jan called us sort of the Scrum organization. And this might feel that it's without any structure and let's just go ahead and brainstorm and empty a bottle of Chardonnay, why not? But this is not the way that design sprinting works. It is a very structured process. Again, understand, then come up with possible solutions, then decide what the best solution might be, then build your prototype, and then test, validate it with real users. It's a very structured program. Almost last but not least, cloudy with a chance of fuck-ups. This is what I just was talking about on positive failure. If you come up with your solution, your prototype, and you test it amongst yourself, test it with 5 users. Now write this down, 5 users. You only need 5 users to validate a real prototype, and this will give you then 85% of your most important findings. If the finding is, this is not the way that this virtual influencer should work, then that's a great finding. Okay? Reason being, if Postillion were to engage this virtual influencer, come up with storylines, then Martin will appoint a team of writers, UX designers, etc., and this will cost a fortune. Right? So Postillion has to come up with a handsome sum to pay Martin's fees. Now what if this wasn't tested beforehand? So they pay, let's say, 20,000 euros or 10,000 euros or 50,000 euros, a handsome sum, only to find out then that it doesn't work. This is the real reason why we do design sprints, right? Test it beforehand. It gives you the superpower to fast forward into the future, test a possible solution, find out if it works or if it doesn't work, and then go back, iterate, adjust until it really works for your audience, and then go to market. before the hackathon, really quickly, 2 more minutes. Write your plans, right? So use this coming 30 minutes or so, because you're warp speeding everything, to actually write a plan, rules of engagement, etc. Then visualize your own schedule, 5 different phases. Then choose your tools. Are you working with Teams, Zoom, Google Meet? Are you using virtual whiteboards like Miro or Mural or Google Jamboard? Or are you using just pen and paper, take pictures of it and share it in WhatsApp? I don't care, just make sure that you understand your tooling. Tooling is not only technical tooling, it is also the little workshops that you're doing. So if you're sketching a persona, that is one of your tools, how to sketch a persona. Then prep your materials, make sure you know your team, and then get yourself into a fun mindset. This is key, right? It's not only being that 4-year-old with a Batman cape on, it's also about having fun. Rules of the game, have fun, focus, mic and cam on, and 1 conversation at a time. Now I was going to ask this audience any questions, and you stay silent, which is okay. Myself, Maarten, and the next speaker, Mark Struik, will be here all day answering your questions, right? So if you come up with a question, just put it in the chat box, and we'll make sure that we come up with an answer. Now, a question to us is an answer to all. This is how a hackathon works, right? So if one of you has a question for Maarten or Mark or myself, we will answer to all. So you've all got a level playing field. Have fun.
All right, thank you very much, Jeroen, for taking us once again through the steps of design thinking and the steps that we're going to be going through today, tomorrow, and Thursday. And I'd like to open up the floor to our last speaker, Mark Struik. He's a commercial director of Postillion, and he's going to take us through the world of Postillion.
So, good morning to you all. I'm the last one you have to listen to, so about the energy drain Jeroen spoke about, it will be over soon, hopefully. I'm also the 3rd hotello in front of you this morning, and guess what? I'm the real one from this university. I was in your shoes about 16 years ago from cohort 2004, and I finished this fantastic school you're about to start your new career with. So welcome to that new first day of the rest of your life, and it's going to be amazing. So Erik, Jan, Maarten and Jeroen took you already to what's going to happen these upcoming 3 days. And we as Postillion are facilitating this hackathon. And we want you to come up with an idea how an influencer, a virtual influencer, can help us to attract you to my company. But then I think you first have to understand what's my company all about. And I'm going to take you to those moments for now. We call it the world of in design sprinting. You start with that every morning. Some inspiration from a specific guy in a specific field will tell you something about his world, where he's coming from. So I'm going to take you to Postillion. Currently 7 locations in the Netherlands: Amsterdam, Rotterdam, Arnhem, Dordrecht, Deventer, and what we call Amersfoort, Veluwemeer, the last one at the lake. What is all a company about? What we do is we serve actual hospitality. We want every guest to come in to our hotel, whether he comes as a hotel guest, a meeting guest, or just for a cup of coffee. We want them to feel special. We want them to feel happy. So our promise to the guest is we always have attention for our guest, and we try to make a positive impact on his or her day. That's what it's all about. So we live by the creed, attention with impact. That's very important to us. If I look at our core values of the company, we got 5 of them. First of all, fun. very important. Every day we should have fun together and we should have a laugh. We had a little bit too much laugh yesterday, so we all have a small hangover, like we hotelers should have on a Tuesday morning. But have fun together. That's what Jeroen said as well. We do like entrepreneurs. It came up already this morning a few times. Entrepreneurship in hospitality is so important because we always want to make the guest happy, and you always have to think creative on what's happening on that specific day. So get out your standard procedures, think as an entrepreneur. Of course, we're a commercial company, so results are important, financial results, guest satisfaction results, always important. That's where we focus on as well. We want to be bold. We want to be a little bit different in the market. We're innovative. We came up with an AI bot. We're doing something with virtual influencers. We came up with a hackathon for you guys. So we want to be bold. We want to be a little bit different. We dare to stand out of the crowd. And I want us to be the expert. And I want us to be the expert on, in our case, meeting and conventions, because that's our core focus as a company. I will come back to that later. So those 5 values are our core values. That's what we seek in people starting with us in our company. Our mission statement. We always have attention for our guests and employees. Not only for the guests, but also for our employees, because they are important. So we always have to focus on them. We will never compromise on quality. So we don't do things halfway. If we do them in a correct way. And we want to be famous for being game changers. So that's what we're always looking for. Challenge the status quo in our industry. Challenge what's going on now and to see if we can find a better way, a better solution, and often we use design thinking for that. Our positioning statement, who we are. We want to be the benchmark in meetings and conferences from 600 to 1,000. That's our specialty. We've got a few convention centers in the Netherlands among the hotels. There we host events and meetings, and that's why we want to be the best in the world, be the benchmark. But also for our employees, we want to be a great place to work. We want our people to say, I work for Postillion. I got it on my resume, and that's very good. That's what we want. And we do things slightly different. So again, we challenge the status quo, and we challenge to do things a little bit different. So that's about the core of our company. So let's have a look where we get our money from. And that's something you will learn on your education now as well. So 43% of our revenue is generated from room revenue, selling hotel rooms. 35% of our revenue is coming from meeting and conferences hosted in our venues. And then we got 21% left for the restaurants, F&B, and some other revenue streams coming into the hotel. We can divide that even a little bit further. If you look into the rooms, we can divide it in 4 major segments. We got the leisure groups, you know, the touring car with mostly elderly people staying in your hotels and visiting Amsterdam, for instance. We've got the leisure individual, so people going on city trips, booking a package, riding bikes, etc. We have business groups, so if you have a meeting with us and the meeting takes 2 days, you need an overnight stay. Then your business group, you're staying with us about 8%. And then we got the retail guest, and that's the one who's booking via booking.com or via our website, and we don't know the specific purpose why they are in the hotel. Also, we looked at who is booking the meeting and conferences with us. There are all these kinds of segments. I'm not going to them in detail at the moment, but we have to understand who are our clients and where are they coming from. And that's important also because if we want to validate innovations we do, we have to know who is our specific client. So how's the revenue generated in the end? It starts with the revenue, then you got the three main revenue streams. I just explained the RIMs, the meeting conventions, what we call the MICE industry, and the F&B and other. Those are generated by the segments I just mentioned. So either a government is booking with us, or a corporate like Apple is booking a meeting with us, or a hotel room. So who are the business segments they're coming from? Then we look in, and you heard it already a few times this morning, who are the specific persons making that booking? So we're not, in this case, looking into who are our guests, but who is picking actually up the phone or sending us the email and saying, hey, Mark, can I book my next meeting with you guys in Postillion? Who is that person? We want to understand. We call them personas. And we took a deep dive in who these people are. And then we try with personalization strategies to attract these personas to make sure they come in our company. And for that, we use a customer journey. Understand where in the buying process this specific persona is. Where are they? And what information do they need from us at a specific time in their journey to make sure they pick up the phone and say, Mark, I'm going to book my next meeting with you. We also took a look, where do our guests come from? In our case, that's mainly Netherlands, the largest part, Belgium, Western Germany, the UK is one of what we call key feeder markets, and the US is one of the biggest markets. And like Martin, I do miss traveling now, because usually I'm in the States a couple of times a year, but due to COVID, unfortunately, we have to stay in the Netherlands. So here are buying personas. These are the people we say they pick up the phone. We got the business booker. The business booker is what we call in general the secretary of the company or the assistant. And they have to make a booking for their boss or for a team or for the whole office. These are people, very busy days, doing all kinds of stuff, and booking a venue, whether it's for a hotel or a meeting, it doesn't matter, is one of their small tasks on their day, the business booker. Then we got the convention organizer. This is the real specialist. They organize the big conferences. Who are these people? Who are the ones who host big conference at our venue for 1,000 professors in neurology? Who are these people? So we created a full passport of who they are, what they like, where they listen to, which media do they use, what's their age, what's the average earning, to try to understand these persons. We got a meeting planner, a professionalist who's only planning meeting for others. They hardly come at the meeting themselves. The convention organizer is always there during the meeting. A meeting planner is always planning for somebody else and never there him or herself. Then we have the leisure guest, probably my father and mother, going to Amsterdam, have a nice walk in the city, ride a bike, stuff like that. And then we got a retail guest, the one who books through booking.com, through our own website, and saying, okay, I need to be at your hotel. No specific reason you have to know whether I'm going to visit a company or stay with my grandmother. You don't need to know. I just need that specific room for you. Those are our leading, what we call buying personas, the ones who pick up the phone, send the email, go to a website, and make the actual reservation. So to attract these people, we do all kinds of nice campaigns. So on the top left was the opening campaign of a convention center we did, the Dream Event campaign, where an organizer could win 30,000 euros. On the bottom you see Users We Love It. It was the opening campaign for our flagship store, flagship hotel in Amsterdam. And the campaign was really focused especially on the convention organizer. We took that persona as leading persona to create that specific campaign. And the next campaign we're developing now, Maarten already told you about, is with Esther, a virtual influencer, a city guide in Rotterdam for opening of the brand new Postillion in the center of Rotterdam. And we want the guest to be there. And also there we looked at two personas. One is the retail guest who wants to come to explore Rotterdam as a city, to have fun in Rotterdam. But that same person can also be a convention organizer. They have an overlap in type of personas, so we really looked at who these are and what do we need to do to attract them to Rotterdam and finally to our hotel. So when you're designing your future influencer, think of you as persona. Who are you guys? Generation Z, the ones who's now starting this study. Who are they? Create a persona for that and understand basically yourself and what motivates you to choose something. And what we want is maybe you will be our next client. In 5, 6 years from now, you're starting your first job, maybe 4 if you're very good. You're starting your first job and maybe you become one of these convention organizers who have to pick up the phone and say, hey Mark, I saw your presentations 4 years ago. I need to organize now a conference for my company and I want to do it with you. That's why it's important. But there's another reason why we want you to do this hackathon. Because we want to be the greatest place to work. It's one of our parts of our mission statement. We want to be a best employer. And what we did is some photos here of our own staff. And in the middle, Eric Jan, you saw this morning. He's the managing director. He's 37 years old. And he's already a couple of years managing director of this hotel group with a couple of hundred people working for him. But also the other guys, young talented people we want to educate and we want to give them the core values to be an entrepreneur in our company. And maybe you heard of it or maybe you don't, but if you're a third year or fourth year student, we have the next GEM campaign. You can actually participate as a hotello in a contest to become the general manager of one of our venues for 1 year. A real education. Today, actually, Melissa, her first day. She's the second next general manager. Justus finalized his first year yesterday. And I think Justus was a stand-in. No, he wasn't. Oh. I thought he was, but so yesterday he finished his first year. So straight out of school, become the general manager, the boss of one specific hotel. That's the biggest learning school we can give you, because that's what's going on in the real world. And whether you decide to work in one of these departments in the hospitality industry, or you want to focus on all of them, if you want to be a general manager, for instance, you need to understand a little bit of all these different departments because you need to see them. Or you want to be a specialist in one of these departments, we are a company which can help you to learn, to understand and develop you as a young talent coming from school or maybe doing your internship, and we can help you to grow in your career. And what makes Postillion a lot of fun, I already told you, the entrepreneurship is very important to us. So you have a playing field, and of course there are boundaries on the playing field, like in soccer, you know, you can not go outside those boundaries because then you can't play anymore. That's within our company as well. So as an employee or as a general manager, you have a certain playing field. You have to be within those boundaries. But the fun part about Postillion is those boundaries are a little bit flexible with us. It's not straightforward. If you're going to work for, like instance, Hilton or Marriott, I used to work for Starwood, a big American company now merged with Marriott. You have these boundaries as well, but they're not flexible. They tell you from headquarters in the States what to do, how to perform, and that's what you have to follow. With Postillion, you have a seat at the table. You talk together with us as directors on the future of the company. You can participate in what we have to do, where we have to focus. We want you to be bold. We want you to be entrepreneurial. Come up with innovations. Say, I have a great idea. Maybe we need to do a design sprint. Then we call Jeroen. And afterwards we call Martin to execute it. We have our own development program for young staff. It's called the Next Chief. Do you want to be the next chief? Do you want to be the next Erik Jan of our company? We got this program for you. And there we take you in 1 year with all kinds of lections and assignments, and that's actually a cooperation together with Stanford University, so you get an official degree for it as well, to grow in your career, and that's what we help you with. And of course there has to be a distinction between your personal life and your business life. But if you want to come to the top, you also there have to choose for yourself, where is my focus? My focus more on the fun stuff and going to the bar every night and doing all kinds of sport. That's good as well. But if you really want to come to the top, you have to make a choice for that, and you have to focus, like in a design sprint, you have to focus on your career. And if you do that, you can make it, especially within Postillion, to the top. And the way is not too long. And you can do all these kinds of fun stuff, sitting at the table, designing on where we have to go for the future, travel, go to the greatest parties with clients, and work together to become a team. And hopefully, during your school, as an intern, or maybe later on, after your graduation, hopefully you will decide to come and work for Postillion, because we can really use your talent to be bold, to be game changers, to be innovative. Good luck to all of you this week. I'm really looking forward to your prototypes at the end of the week, so we can evaluate them. And then finally we're going to decide which prototype is the best one, and we're going to pick those as a winner. Good luck to you all, and hopefully see you in the field.
All right, thank you very much, Mark, for giving us a history of Postillion. Okay, guys, now it's time to get to work. You've heard 4 presentations. It's up to you now to get busy. Remember what the milestones are. Remember, at the end of today, you need to have a user journey, a persona, and a problem definition. And remember that at the end of tomorrow, you need to have your prototype ready for the Museum of Now. Remember that there's also great prizes to win: an overnight stay in the Postillion Hotel in Amsterdam, masterclasses, lunch, dinner, you name it. So go ahead and get started. With no further ado, on your mark, get set, go.